We can use AI to leverage and say, show me those specific patients who called to try to book an appointment regarding a crown, but they didn't make it on the schedule, and boom, they have that appointment filled. So it's going to make their job easier. It's going to automate tasks for them and streamline processes. It's there to help us. It's not there to replace us.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Raving Patients Podcast. As you know, I'm your host, Dr. Len Tao. I want to thank the sponsors, both Dental Intelligence and the Doc Sites, for their support, allowing me to come to your inbox every morning at 5 a.m. With a new podcast episode. I also want to inform everybody about my event in September called Supercharge Your Dental Practice. It's my second event. The first event was last year in Delray Beach, which was an awesome event, and it was so well received. We're doing it again September 27th and 28th at the Scott Resort and Spa. Go to superchargeyourdentalpractice.com to learn more and to actually reserve your ticket. There is an early bird special still going on to give you $100 off. Additionally, you can use the code RAVING, R-A-V-I-N-G, to save that additional $100. And I hope to see you there. So today's episode is called Smile Talk, Leveraging AI Insights for Dental Practice Growth. We're going to be talking about a company called Peerlogic, and my guest is Breanna McMillen, who is the head of sales at the company. Breanna began as a hygiene assistant and progressed to a hygienist, eventually overseeing operations in a multi-location practice. In 2012, the birth of her son, who has Down syndrome, sparked a professional interest in myofunctional therapy. After obtaining certification in this specialized field, she was able to utilize her newfound knowledge to develop a dental-specific myofunctional therapy program tailored to address orthodontic and TMD issues. Unfortunately, with the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic, she realized her family needed her to have greater flexibility, so she transitioned to the software aspect of the dental field. Just like in the dental clinic, she started at the bottom of the sales team and eventually ascended into her current role as the head of sales. So please welcome to the Raving Patients Podcast, Breanna McMillen. Breanna, thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Len. I'm so excited to be here.
So Breanna, let's start off with exactly what Peerlogic is, because a lot of people don't know what the product is or what it does.
Right. So Peerlogic, it's conversational AI. And when we talk about AI, there's tons and tons of different types of artificial intelligence out there. Specifically, we're artificial intelligence that lives within a phone system in a dental practice. And so our AI is listening to all of those conversations, and it's able to analyze what's happening. So is this a new patient who called the practice or an existing patient? Are they asking about crowns or implants? What is the sentiment of the call? Are we having a bad 5 minutes in our day with the patient and the employee? Or are they able to smile on that call? All the way down to, did we schedule that appointment? And if we didn't, what was that barrier that kept those patients from scheduling? So the AI works to help identify areas of additional revenue for the practice and just really help the front office staff.
One of the other questions I wanted to ask you, and I mentioned I was going to ask you this, is who is this product geared for? Is it geared for solo practices? Is it geared toward group practices? Is it geared to every dental practice can use this? Kind of give your opinion on that.
Honestly, I think it's one of those products that's kind of geared for everybody. Now, our small, tiny little practices where the doctor works 1 to 2 days a week, he's on his way out to retirement. He's got Cindy, the front office manager, who's been with him for, 30 plus years, and she's the only person up front. They're probably not going to utilize it as much. Now, any other practice that's looking to understand what's going on with their patients, what's going on with their staff and their revenue and their production, that's who it's going to be perfect for. So it works great for those small practices, but it also works great for, the larger DSOs who want to know at the practice level exactly what's going on.
Got it. So the phone system, in my opinion, the actual phone, is probably the most important piece of equipment in dental practice. And I hate to say, you put the least trained employee a lot of times at the front desk to answer the phone calls coming in. So I think the importance of phones in general is overlooked. So can you talk about the importance of the phone and talk about knowing what's happening on the phone? Because when I talk to dental practices, our phone calls they're recorded. And I go, do you ever listen to them? And they go, no. So, which I laugh at, because why are you recording if you're not listening to it? But it takes time, and a lot of people don't have the time to do it. So can you talk about the overlooked importance of knowing what's happening on one's phone in the office?
Yeah, definitely. And you hit probably the top points that happen with the phones. It's usually, like you said, the least trained staff member in the office. They're kind of treated just like a receptionist. They're there to just pick up that phone and try to answer the phone every time it rings. They don't necessarily know how to handle a call or the importance that every interaction with every single patient matters. And doctors are busy seeing patients. At the end of the day, when the office is meeting their production goals, they aren't worried about what's happening on the phone. But what they don't realize is when all those calls are coming in, they think that they're catching every call that comes into the practice. But on average, most offices are missing at very minimum 30% of the calls that come into the practice. So that's 30% of patients who are reaching out to that practice to probably book an appointment that they never even actually have a phone conversation with. And then even when they have those phone conversations, the staff aren't trained on what to do when there's an objection. So say we don't accept a patient's insurance. They may say, oh, but I know Dr. So-and-so 2 blocks down the road accepts our insurance. I've heard that call so many times. But doctors, unless they're listening to the calls, they have absolutely no idea those are the conversations that the staff is having with those patients and how many additional patients they could pull in if there was just a little bit of training that was happening.
So let's talk about that scenario. Let's use that exact scenario where the front desk person is saying, well, I know Dr. So-and-so or so-and-so down the street takes your insurance instead of us. So can you talk about what happens if someone's using Peerlogic in that scenario?
So in that scenario, the AI is going to analyze that call and it's going to flag that call as a missed opportunity. We're going to work when we're training the office staff and the office how to use Peerlogic, we're going to recommend that they review those calls in the morning huddle. So the morning huddle, they're going to pull that call. They're going to review and they're going to say, we missed this patient. Let's reach back out to that patient and say, you know what? I realize we don't accept your insurance, but we have X, Y, and Z that could help you in our practice as far as like financing options, in-house options. We accept your insurance's fee schedule, however they want to handle that, and try to win that patient back over so that they can get that patient added to the schedule and get that additional revenue into the practice.
AI is such a big thing nowadays. Everybody's talking about AI. Bird Eye just incorporated AI into its product. AI is everywhere. Can you give your perspective on what AI is and what it isn't, so people can understand more about artificial intelligence? Because it's still amazing to me when I talk to dentists and I go, I'm sure you've heard of artificial intelligence or AI, and they're like, what's that? Or they don't know. Or even when you talk about ChatGPT, which is what everybody knows about, people go, what's ChatGPT? I never heard about it. So can you kind of go into what AI is and what AI isn't?
100%. So, and I think, when there is that knowledge base of what AI is, there's definitely like a misconception of actually what it is. People think that it's this robotic, science that's going to come in, it's going to take over jobs, it's going to replace the front office, or it's going to replace, an assistant or somebody within the practice. And what they don't realize is AI it's a tool that they can put in their tool bag that they can utilize to help make their jobs easier. So like in our case, our AI it's artificial intelligence that's continuously learning. It's learning about the conversations. It's learning about the patients, and it's continuously improving so that it can point things out to staff. A crown falls off the schedule and we need to hurry up and fill that hole, but we don't have time to print out, open treatment lists and call an open treatment all day. We can use that AI to leverage that and say, show me those specific patients who called to try to book an appointment regarding a crown, but they didn't make it on the schedule, and boom, they have that appointment filled. So it's going to make their job easier. It's going to automate tasks for them and streamline processes. And that's what people, I think, have a hard time grasping, is that it's there to help us. It's not there to replace us.
Got it. So what is the difference between AI insights and call tracking metrics? Because they're two different things. Call tracking metrics will tell you how long a person was on the phone. It will tell you where they called from. It will tell you, you obviously, if you use it appropriately, you can obviously say if it's a good lead or a bad lead to give information back to the marketing company who is tracking those calls. But there's a difference between call tracking metrics and AI insights, which is what you're doing. So can you talk about the differences between those two?
Definitely. So call tracking, I think, has been a good metric that we've used up until this point for marketing to understand, where our marketing dollars are being spent, where our leads are coming from. It's numbers that we're going to put on our billboard, our website, our Facebook, so that we can see when that patient calls in, where those calls came from. But what we don't take into consideration with call tracking is, I don't know if you're like this, Lynn, but whenever I call a practice, I'm going to save that initial phone number that I called from in my phone, and I'm going to call that number every time I call. So every time I call the practice, I'm considered a new patient, but I've been going to the practice for 10 plus years. So call tracking metrics are great in an instance, but it's not always reliable. You're not going to get a true ROI with it. Whereas with AI insights, the artificial intelligence is listening to the actual conversation. We're not relying on patient compliance to call the correct phone number. We're listening to the conversation. We're pulling those insights out. So say I call that call tracking number again, the AI can say, okay, so we had 100 calls come in on this tracking line, but of those 100, 80 of them were actually existing patients.
It's funny. I talk about call tracking with dentists all the time. And the reason it comes up in conversation is they are using a call tracking number on their Google My Business page. And there's some issues there related to making sure the name, address, and phone numbers is the same. And obviously, if a tracking number and it's not done properly, it causes the inconsistencies with the NAP, the name, address, and phone number. But where I tell people I'm not a fan of call tracking is kind of what you said, is that when I'm a new patient, I call the number and I put that in my phone. Okay. And I always say, here's what I always say. If John Smith refers Susie Jones to a practice and Susie Jones goes to Google it, which is what we do, and they call that phone number, is that a marketing lead or a referral from a patient? It's actually a patient referral, but the marketing company is taking credit for that marketing lead because they called the phone number on Google. And then when I ask them that, it kind of starts to make sense. But then I go one step further. You're not going to be with the marketing companies forever. You're just not. It doesn't happen that way. You may leave 2, 3, 4 years down the road. And if you leave, what happens to that tracking number? The tracking number actually gets disconnected, and people who call the office are going to get a disconnected phone number because they think that's your phone number. And I always say, how do I know it? Because it happened to me. It happened to me in my own practice where I was using a tracking number. The tracking number ended up actually getting screwed up somehow, and it listed as a disconnected number. And people thought I was no longer in practice or closed, and that's a problem. So that is why call tracking works somewhat because it tells you, did they call from the ad? Did they call from the billboard? Did they call from these various ways of your marketing? But ultimately, it doesn't give you all the information that you need, and there's obviously some problems with it.
Yep. And that's exactly how I feel about it too. And kind of to your point that you're saying, they see your number, they see your billboard, they see that number there, but they don't have time to write that number down. They're going to Google you and they're going to call from your Google number. So you don't always have a true read of which marketing campaign actually sent that patient to the practice. And that is one area where that AI insights come in. It can actually pull that referral lead from the conversation.
So when somebody calls the office and the AI insights takes over and analyzes the call and they miss an opportunity, can you talk about what happens when that happens? How does the practice know they missed an opportunity? Do they get an email? Do they get a text message? Do they get both? Are you sending a transcript of the conversation like they do on the iPhone? So you don't actually have to listen to it. You can kind of read the transcript. Just talk about the process that occurs when an opportunity is missed.
Yeah. So say that call comes in, we miss that opportunity. It's an implant. They don't have the financing for it, and we don't offer them financing options. As soon as that phone is hung up, within seconds, the AI is going to analyze it, and then we're going to send an alert to the office, whether that be through email or text. They can pick or choose one, either or both. From there, they can pull the call where they can have a full call summary. So it's a bulleted summary. They never have to listen to the call. They don't have to read a full transcript because the AI is going to summarize it. So a few quick bullet points. This is exactly what happened. Here's insights into the call. This is the procedures, the insurance, everything they discussed. And here's that failure reason why they didn't book. And then they have the ability to even write notes on the call. Let's call this patient back and offer them a financing option. Or, Susie probably needs to up her inflection when talking to a patient because she sounds like she's about to fall asleep. So whatever notes they want to add in there, they can immediately add those in there so that they can review that with the staff as well.
And then how much are you doing any type of coaching? Are you doing anything after the call? Are you advising them, or are you just sending them the metrics and it's on their own to decide what they want to do with it?
So what we learned really early on is when it comes to the coaching side of things, we definitely aren't the experts in that. We're the experts into pointing out the revenue, pointing the things that you need to look at, where you need to focus your attention. And offices typically aren't going to be receptive to a third party coming in and saying, you did this, this, and this wrong. Because let's be honest, like in a dental practice, most of the staff are really good. They just balance way too much. So we don't want them to think that we are pointing out everything they're doing wrong. We want to leave that up to like their office manager, the doctor, somebody that knows their personality, somebody that knows how to coach them, and somebody that can actually induce some type of behavior change with those analytics.
Got it. That makes sense. So I want to switch to a little bit of a different, just a conversation about it is how can Peerlogic help with an increase in call volumes in dental practices? Obviously, I think this day and age, a lot of people feel overwhelmed at the front desk and they have calls coming in. They have new patient calls. They have existing patient calls. They have patients who are complaining. They have patients who are calling for all sorts of reasons. How can you help with the number of call volumes that the practice is getting?
And you're exactly right. The call volumes and practices is just continually increasing. We have minimal staff at the front office that are, answering those calls. We can't hit every single call that comes into the practice. So we have a few areas that we do help. With those calls that come in that the practice isn't able to actually capture, we want to make sure that we get a touch point with every one of those patients. So our AI, it uses an algorithm to determine, is this a missed new patient versus a missed existing patient call? Is this a salesperson calling in and somebody we don't even need to waste our time calling back because we have such little time? And then with those missed calls, it'll send out an alert, not just to the front office. So we can alert the front office, hey, you missed a new patient call. We also send an alert or a text message to the actual patient that completely be customized. Sorry, missed your call. Here's our online booking link or whatever you'd like it to say. And they can also cater those text messages, one for that new patient base and one for the existing patient population so that we make sure that we're touching those patients appropriately. And then again, with all of that, those missed revenue, all of those calls that are coming in, we're helping them know which calls we do need to call back. And then as we're calling those back, the AI is recognizing that we did actually reach back out to that patient. It automatically will go into the platform. It'll timestamp it so they know, hey, we followed up with this patient. Nobody else needs to worry about this patient. This one was taken care of.
Now, one of the things that I am always interested in is somebody calls the practice and they have Medicaid or an insurance company that they don't accept, like an HMO, let's call it that. In previous uses of systems that I've used, I would get a notification that, hey, we missed an opportunity when truly it was not an opportunity because it wasn't a patient that would ever want to come to our practice. Do you handle that any differently? Do you still look at it as a missed opportunity, or is there a way to flag certain words in the conversation so it's really not an opportunity? Talk about that.
Right. So that's actually feedback that we continuously get. A lot of offices don't consider government insurance an actual opportunity itself. As of right now, we still consider it an opportunity, but there's two use cases where you can pull those opportunities out. Because our AI is analyzing the call, it can understand every time an insurance is mentioned. So you can pull and say, I want to see every new patient opportunity that came in that was missed. And I want to see the ones that discuss, Medicaid. You're going to have all those calls. So specifically which ones we don't need to call back and which ones we don't need to consider as an actual opportunity itself.
Got it. Okay. That makes a lot of sense. So, let's talk about the future of Peerlogic's AI, the future of the product, the future. Where do you see it going in the future?
Right. So, Peerlogic, one of our things we've always wanted to just help the front office. They balance so much. They have so many things. They're constantly multitasking. So whatever we can do to help the front office, we want to do. So now that we have all of our insights going out, we actually are working to, at the end of this quarter, release our responsive AI. So now not only are those text messages going out to patients, sorry, I missed your call, we can also respond, hey, Lynn, sorry we missed your call. I see you have an appointment at 2:00. Are you calling regarding that appointment? The AI can talk back and forth with you. Do you want to reschedule that appointment? Are you calling to confirm that appointment? I also see little Joey has an appointment that he's overdue for. Would you like to schedule his hygiene appointment? So one additional thing just to continue to help the front office. So all those patients are still reached out. We're still able to fill the schedule while the front office is doing any and everything else that they need to be doing.
Got it. So one last question I had was, if a missed call happens, somebody misses a call. Obviously, we can't handle the volume of calls sometimes. If a missed call happens, talk about what a practice does. Talk about what Peerlogic can do in that situation, in order to make sure that they reconnect with the person that's calling the office and how quickly they get it. Cause if you miss a call, you have to be so fast in responding to it. If you don't call them right back, they're going to look elsewhere for it, especially if they're a new patient. Obviously, we're talking about new patients here, not existing patients, but new patients that are coming in.
Right. And that's one of those areas where with our AI being able to decipher, is this a missed new patient call versus a missed existing patient call? That's where that really comes into play, where they can prioritize. We're sending those alerts and those text messages out On average, what studies show, a practice has about 7 minutes to call that new patient back before that patient's moved on and called another practice. So they'll be able to see specifically, okay, these are my missed new patient calls. These are ones I need to reach out to immediately. And they don't actually even have to be in our platform. We have a call pop feature that hovers over their actual schedule. So they can see, okay, these are the missed new patient calls that I need to follow up with immediately. As soon as they follow up with that patient, it leaves the list. So they know, okay, that's one that we no longer have to follow up with. And then once we make it through that new patient list, then we can start reaching out to our existing patients that have called the practice as well, where we've missed those calls.
Oh, that's interesting. The last question I have for you is, let's talk about people who have existing phones versus how do they use the existing numbers? Do they have to get a tracking number? So talk about that. What existing technology they have versus implementing Peerlogic in their practice. How does that all happen, and what do they need and what don't they need?
Yeah. So that's one of the amazing things about our platform. So we can utilize everything that they already have in the practice. If they want us to integrate with their current VoIP system, we can do that. They don't have to have any new phone numbers. We use all of their existing phone numbers. So there's not going to be any changes there. If they want to change their phone system, we do have a very solid VoIP service, so they can switch over to Peerlogic's phone system as well. And then the beauty of whatever their practice management system is, we can integrate with it, but we don't have to because we're analyzing the actual phone conversations. We don't have to pull any information from the practice management system. So we can utilize as much of their technology or as little of their technology as they want. Say it's an office that's, they still have like a paper schedule and we're on landlines. We can even work with those practices. So there's not going to be any exclusions based off of the technology that they have within the practice.
So as some other companies that do integrate with the practice management software, you don't have that limitation. So you almost can work with any practice out there, no matter what technology they have.
Exactly. The only advantage we have when we're actually integrating with that practice management system is it can take our analytics from being like a 92% accuracy closer to that 100 accuracy, like a 99.9. So as long as you're not worried about that 8% accuracy, which most people aren't, then we don't have to worry about any type of integrations.
And you use your existing phone number as well.
Correct.
So They don't have to change their phone number. They don't have to use tracking numbers or anything. You're just going right into their phone system and getting the information there.
Yep. That's
a huge advantage there. That's a big advantage. So,
yeah.
So Breanna, anything else? I mean, we talked about a lot of things here, and we have time left, but is there anything else that you wanted to bring up? Anything that we missed in our conversation regarding Peerlogic or anything related to AI or anything that you wanted to discuss on top of what we already covered?
One thing that we didn't cover, Lynn, that I always try to bring to a point, because sometimes, especially when we're talking private practice, we start worrying about like how is staff going to feel about this? Is the AI there to analyze them as a person and point out that they're doing a bad job? And I think that's one thing that a lot of offices, they kind of shy away from technology in general. And so I think it's super important whenever they're looking to leverage products like Peerlogic or any other technology out there to understand that it's not there to micromanage your staff or to catch your staff doing something wrong. It's literally a tool there to help them, to make their job easier and to help them see more patients and help them enjoy their day and enjoy the front office just a little bit better than they already do.
Got it. All right. So this was great. You gave a lot of amazing information. We'll grab your contact information. We'll grab all the information regarding how people can reach out to you or learn more about Peerlogic in a couple of moments. I want to switch gears here. I'm going to bring up our Q&A section, which is called the pod deck section. So I'm going to ask you, as I discussed, I'm going to ask you very appropriate business related questions regarding yourself or even Peerlogic here. Answer them. We'll do 8 to 10 questions, and then we'll grab your contact information and finalize everything. So, all right. First question. What methods do you use to keep focused during the day?
So I live by my calendar. I am very much a type A personality, color coordinated person. So during the day, keeping myself organized, I am living out of tasks that I create, everything that's in my calendar. If it's not on my calendar, it doesn't exist and it's not happening.
Okay. What kind of shower ideas do you get?
That's hilarious. You know what? I think type A personalities, I will constantly go back to that. Your mind never stops at all. It's always constantly going. And I am very much that person in the shower. I'm thinking about like, what does my day look like? What do I need to do today? And then that's also where I'm brainstorming, like, what can I do to help my team? What can I do to help make my job easier? What can we do to take some stress off everybody's plate and just be successful throughout the day?
Got it. Describe Mondays for you in one word.
Oh, chaos. Just like in a dental practice.
Got it. Got it. If you had a chance to start your career over again, what would you do differently?
Whew. I have thought about that a million times because I've always been that person. What can I do to make my career? Like, I want to go as far and as high as I can. Whenever I backtrack and I think about it, just because of having my son that has Down syndrome, I always wanted to go back and do like another form of therapy, whether that was speech therapy, physical therapy, something like that, where you really like are giving to somebody. It kind of goes along with like hygiene in the clinic too. Like you're improving their quality of life. I would absolutely enjoy that.
Got it. What mindsets have helped make you successful?
I am very much an optimist. I can't stand pessimism or negativity. And so I think constantly always looking on the bright side of things definitely like just sets you up for success.
What book have you read multiple times? Or another question on that would be, what is your favorite book?
Oh, Adam Grant's Think Again. It's absolutely one of my favorite books. It makes you challenge your way of thinking, making sure that you don't just take everybody's word for things. You question it, and it helps you grow like in an actual mindset.
Got it. Who would you love to collaborate with, and what would you love to collaborate on?
Oh my goodness. I don't even know where I have absolutely no idea. I don't know if I can answer that question.
No, there's nobody in the dental industry, nobody in the industry that you look up to and would love to, work with.
That's actually a really good one. So if we're talking specifically in the dental industry, I think Dr. Amankar, like everybody looks up to her. She has done so much, like especially with like women in DSO, all of those things, and the pathway that she's paved for women in our industry. Like she would be an amazing person to sit down and collaborate with.
There you go. See, it just had to kind of.
I know. It just needed to, it had to give me a little bit.
Dive in a little bit. Exactly. Exactly. Now, you used to be in the business development side of things. Now you're on the sales side. So how did you develop key partnerships in your role?
So I've actually done both sides. I did the sales side, then I went to partnerships, and then came back to like the leadership side of sales. But working on that partnership side, it's amazing to say like, hey, how can we work together? Like, how does your product benefit us? Or how does the consulting you do within practices, like, how can I help you improve that? And so really positioning ourselves like that when we went to partners, like, how can we work together to not just like improve things for our companies, but also improve things within the dental practices? That really we were able to get some really successful partnerships doing that together.
Perfect. 2 questions left. When you were a kid, what was the first thing you wanted to be when you grew up?
I wanted to be an orthodontist. I had the worst set of teeth ever growing up. And so I always wanted to go in and I wanted to straighten teeth. And then I found out how long you had to be in college for that. And I said, no, thank you.
Hey, that's turn off to some people a lot of times. So.
Yeah.
Last question. It could be business or personal.
Okay.
What is one subscription you cannot live without?
Ooh, I'm going to say my Walmart grocery delivery. It literally saves my life with how much I travel, 2 boys that are constantly in activities, having my groceries delivered. If that was taken away, I don't know what I would do. I don't know the last time I stepped foot in a grocery store.
It's funny. My wife does Costco delivery and stuff and those things through Instacart, but she does not like to have someone go grocery shopping for her because she likes to pick her own fruit and produce. And, and she's very particular about that. It's very different when someone else is picking that for you. So, but that's not something I've heard too often, but hey, in your lifestyle, that works. So,
right.
You did great. Those were awesome ways to answer those questions. Thank you so much. So, Breanna, how can people find out more about Peerlogic? How can they get in touch with you to learn more, set up a demo, go over those processes?
Yeah, so they can go through our website, www.peerlogic.com. There we have the ability to schedule a demo there, or they can reach out to me personally through my email, Breanna@peerlogic.com.
So it's Breanna, Breana @peerlogic.com. Or go to peerlogic.com and you can set up a demo of that. Did you want to offer anything to the listening audience or viewing audience regarding a discount or some reason to get them to come to you and learn more about Peerlogic?
Definitely. So anybody that wants to reach out to us and they mention the podcast, we'll offer 2 months free if they're willing to sign up.
So again, mention the podcast, Raving Patients. They'll give you 2 months free if you want to sign up. That's awesome. So, Breanna, this was great. You were a great guest. Very nice, smooth flowing conversation. Thank you so much for joining me today. Guys, if you liked the episode, please share it. Please tell your colleagues about it. If you want to learn more, obviously, please reach out to Breanna and her team to find out more about what Peerlogic can do for your practice. Again, If you are a single location practice, you can still use a product like this. There's nothing new you have to incorporate. You don't have to get any special phones. You don't have to get any special phone lines. You don't have to get a special number. They literally can just install on what you have. You don't need an integration into your practice management software. I think she said it goes from 98 or 100% to 92%. So that's not such a big deal. But this was great, Breanna. Thank you so much for joining me today. Guys, if you liked the episode, please share it. Please review us. Please promote it. I would really appreciate your help. Remember to learn more about my event called Supercharge Your Dental Practice. Go to superchargeyourdentalpractice.com and learn more about the event September 27th and 28th in Scottsdale, Arizona. And as I end every episode of this podcast, remember, your reputation matters. Until the next episode, thank you so much for joining me today, and we'll talk to everyone soon.